Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show, where we help you make the wisest and most profitable decisions. My name is Dr. Gleb Tsipursky. I'm the CEO of Disaster Avoidance Experts, the future of work consultancy that sponsors the Wise Decision Maker Show. And today with me is Ben Dutter, who's the Senior Vice President of Strategy at Power Digital. Ben, tell us a little bit about what Power Digital does.
Yeah, for sure. And thanks for having me on, Dr. Gleb. Power Digital, we are a growth marketing firm. So we sit kind of at the intersection between more traditional consulting firms and performance marketing agencies. So we like to blend both of those things to grow our clients' revenue and profit as much as we can.
Excellent. And tell me a little bit about what you see as the impact of artificial intelligence on growth marketing.
Yeah, well, it's a massive impact, and there's many ways that we could steer this conversation depending on your interest level there. But I think at a high level, there's kind of two main approaches. There's the efficiency approach, where you're able to do things a lot more quickly or super productively compared to what you were able to do in years past or eras past. And then there's the quality side, where you're able to create or ideate or interpret information and gives you more room to have more kind of headspace or more capabilities. And so that's empowering brands to grow faster and to see a higher ROI. So both sort of feed into each other. But I think from a marketing lens, for now, the short term definitely is in the speed and efficiency, and that frees up your critical thinkers to have more time.
Excellent. So let's dive deep into that. What does it mean that AI allows more speed and efficiency? How does that practically look like?
Yeah, for sure. I think on the paid media side, so we're talking about, advertising, especially digital performance-based advertising. We've been using machine learning, which is a type of AI, for algorithmic optimizations for probably close to, a decade has been best practice by this point. And those systems have been very well optimized over time. And so when I started way back when, we used to actually have to manually adjust all of our settings and bids and levers and things in an ad platform. If I'm bidding on a keyword, I actually had to type in the keyword. I had to put in how much money I'm willing to pay for that keyword. Now all of that's done with, cloud infrastructure and AI. So the work that a paid marketing expert does is more consultative and business level and understanding the kind of impact, as opposed to fiddling with individual bids and keywords and all of the programmatic ecosystem. So that's on the paid side, but there's also a lot of operational input analysis. You can do very quick and deep data science now with AI, and even create new ads. There's generative AI where you're able to create lots of new copy or lots of new landing pages or whatever. So there's almost infinite applications at this point.
Let's go into the data science and the generative side, which are the newer activities. Tell me a little bit about some examples of how you use generative AI to create new content.
Yeah, for sure. So the easiest one that's the most prevalent right now certainly is text-based content. So you see that a lot with writing copy, whether that's for an email program or for ad copy, or for landing page copy, things like that. So it's still not quite good enough yet, in my opinion, to completely replace a human. I think it will eventually and probably relatively soon, but a lot of it has been positioned where people now on the generative side are more prompt specialists and editors. So they kind of input, let the black box do its thing, see the output, edit it, maybe make some adjustments or make some tweaks to it. And that's more of the workflow. So that's become a significant efficiency booster for a school of work that was more technical and more mundane in kind of the way that the work stream was. On the exciting side, though, I think is more the visual and audio and video type stuff, which is more difficult to fool a typical person, right? It's easier to have text-based sound competent and humanistic, but generative AI video is still pretty uncanny valley in a lot of ways. So I think a lot of that is more experimental and very narrow niche applications rather than super deep, like A to Z production of a video asset.
Yeah, definitely it's much more mature in the tech space. And it's important for folks to understand that generative AI is at the worst right now. The worst we'll ever see is right now. That will only keep getting better. So there's very clear future there that video is going to keep getting better, text is going to keep getting better, and that the different skill sets will be valuable in the future. So what have you found about the kind of skill sets? So you mentioned that briefly. I want to go a little bit deeper into that in terms of working with generative AI. How are the skill sets differing from what they previously used to be?
Yeah, I think a lot of it's similar, but the application is different. So I'll give you an example. If you're a graphic artist, a lot of your time as a graphic artist or a designer was historically spent using tools like a Photoshop or similar, or an Illustrator, doing very precise small movements and a lot of kind of eyeball testing, right? Where you would zoom out, you'd flip it back and forth, you'd flip it upside down, you'd look at it in lots of different colors and contexts. And a lot of it was based on the speed and the skill set that you had in applying your actual finger skill on a keyboard or a mouse or a tablet, right? And with generative AI and a lot of the tools, even Adobe's new generative AI system, a lot of that, again, it's still not as good as a true expert professional could do manually, but you can get 90% or 80% of the way there in minutes. And so a lot of those people who have that same skill set, rather than being really reliant on making all those little fine tweaks within a program like Illustrator, they start off with a generative AI composite image, and then they kind of just edit it or clean it up at that point. And so I think the skill set now has become more of an amplifying effect rather than a starting from scratch effect. And the creativity that can be generated where people say, in times past, especially in an advertising or marketing context where you're often billed by a certain number of hours or a certain amount of deliverables, there was less risk taken historically at brands to be able to spend an expensive art director and an expensive graphic artist's time creating a lot of static imagery for hours and hours and hours and maybe not even use that imagery. But now that same team could sort of explore whatever they want, even the more outlandish things, and get to a near finished product that they can present to a client or to whoever their stakeholders are, and more quickly innovate in that space. So I think it is allowing for creativity to kind of blossom, even if perhaps you were not as manually dexterous as a more skilled artist was in times past.
I think as the expert, kind of the marketing expert, your key value is going to be in creating and evaluating the product that you're going to be. The AI it will take a while before the AI is good enough to evaluate the product, how appropriate it is to the context, but it's definitely going to be important to be able to quickly create something evaluated. And that's the value that you're going to be providing to your client with the recommendations. What have you seen? So that's kind of my initial impressions. What have you seen about the value of using generative AI in that way for clients?
Yeah, I think it comes down to testing and a more data-driven approach and iterative approach to what is working. Just extending it off of like the ad copy example, it used to take many hours potentially. If I wanted to do 5,000 ad copy variations across my Google and Meta advertising, I'd either have to write a formula in like a spreadsheet that would do it for me where I'm combining specific things, or I would have to use some kind of other dynamic fields or, some kind of trigger to create that many ads. It would be almost impossible for somebody to sit and manually write out 5,000 headlines, for example, right? But now it's pretty trivial for someone to say, hey, you know what, I want us to do X, I want us to do 5,000 headlines in this tone of voice. Here's a big data set, go train on this data set. And then that allows that advertiser, without having to even work with a copywriter and the client and everything else. It's sort of almost like a pre-validated set of information that they then can go and test rapidly. And having such a wide array of options allows them to optimize better, to learn, oh, there's a pattern here where every time we mention a percentage off in a promo discount, that beats a flat dollar discount. And we only figured that out because we tested 2,500 variations of ad content or whatever. So it just gives you're able to collect more information from the evaluation side and then iterate on that information more quickly as well.
Excellent. And you talked about using a more data-driven approach. So let's go back to the data analysis part of AI. And we know with tools like Data Interpreter from ChatGPT and other tools that generative AI is increasingly able to analyze and evaluate data effectively. So what have you seen as an effective use of this tool for clients?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a very simple example would be to do like a Bayesian time series model. It used to require somebody with a very specialized series of data science knowledge or statistics knowledge, and probably a lot of work in Excel, or less work, but still a fair amount of work in a language like Python or R. And so it would require multiple kinds of deeply skilled individuals to be able to get to that type of analysis over the series of many hours. And now there are AI-driven systems that can do that in seconds. Even something as simple as ChatGPT and Bard from Google can both do a causal impact analysis or a Bayesian hierarchy analysis in seconds, as long as you have a structured data set that you can upload and prompt the AI appropriately. And so it kind of democratizes more mystique or hidden data science techniques to your average marketer or your smaller brand that historically they probably wouldn't want to pay tens or hundreds of thousands of dollars to a firm or to a data science specialist to be able to get them those answers. And now they can do it for practically free. And there's more and more applications of that all the time. We're seeing that with audience modeling of what type of audience customer is going to be the most valuable for you. We're seeing that with, what kind of product is most likely to yield a conversion for that individual. So there's many ways in marketing that AI is currently being used, but is very quickly developing around maximizing that ROI from an analysis standpoint.
Excellent. Well, this sounds very promising. As we finish up, what do you see as the future of using AI in marketing?
Yeah, I think the future will really depend on what time scale you're saying. I'll keep it to within the next year or so.
Sure.
I think it's very likely that you will see a significant consolidation and commoditization of performance marketing paid channels. I think that things like Google ads and Meta ads and TikTok ads will largely be based on the test design that you do as a smart marketer, as well as connecting creative to customers. But all of the actual button pushing and lever pulling in the engines will largely be obsolete, in my opinion. I also think that on the generative AI side, we're starting to see early signs of this, but I think it will become very applicable in the next 12 months, is you will have completely artificial influencers and people who are, avatars of a brand that are sort of perfectly created using combinations of generative AI and models and things like that, where I could infinitely iterate an influencer who is an icon or an avatar of my brand to make 10,000 videos a week if I wanted to, and be able to mimic a human mannerism. So those are the two areas that I think are going to really revolutionize a lot of the marketing ecosystem, is less work spending time pushing buttons and less reliance on individual video production and that kind of thing.
Excellent, Ben. This was very helpful. Thank you for sharing your expertise.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
And thank you to the audience for checking out another episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. Please make sure to subscribe wherever you checked out the show and leave a review. It helps us improve the show and it helps other people discover the show. All right, everyone. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode of the Wise Decision Maker Show. In the meantime, the wisest and most profitable decisions to you, my friends.